So even after all of these things of wearing a black sweater all day long, wearing glasses all day long, telling people he's autistic and lacks social skills, he's still getting rejected by these girls, and law enforcement is feeling like they're losing power. Right now, I can guarantee the government, if they went into the control center and told law enforcement to administer a 30-minute brain savant test, the probability of them administering a 30-minute brain savant test is zero. The reason is law enforcement already feels like they've lost control over these girls for their sex games and their sex scams that they run on these girls by telling them stuff like such and such person is like the CEO of a company, and then the girl like basically scamming someone's daughter into yeah. And then what they would do is like when the girl finds out that he's not, the guy would like literally just become like a family member and start spilling beans about his workplace and how he gets into fights with people at his work, and he quits his job every year, and he's about to quit his job this year as well, stuff like that of that sort of nature. And then at the end of the day, when they start to get rejected by the girls, they blame me, saying that it's because of my brain savant that the girl was even talking to them or something, and now that the girl is rejecting them, it's because of me. Some things you have to consider. First of all, I never told anyone about my brain savant. Law enforcement did. In fact, by August 25th, 2023, everyone knew about it. Prime example of this is Ms. Deb, who started advertising her daughter to me in mid-June 2023. 2 months before I told anyone about my brain savant. Never whispered it to one person. So how did Ms. Deb know? Law enforcement told her at a time when I hadn't even whispered it to someone. The second thing you have to remember is that these girls, I have absolutely nothing to do with. I've never talked to these girls, never talked to them, never met them, never talked to them, ever. Not one time have I talked to them. So what do I have with these girls? Absolutely nothing. The probability that I would even like run after a girl is incredibly like it's not possible. Looking at people like Miss Deb and Farah the Greedy Framer switching sides every other day for their daughter to basically try to force me to marry them, and making all these false testimonies and things of that sort against me only out of extreme envy of not thinking that I would be able to marry their daughter. So do you think there's any chance that I would run after any girl? Absolutely not. The girl is obviously going to file a lawsuit against me. There's no question about that. As soon as my brain savant gets freed, okay, looking at people like Farah the Greedy Framer and Miss Deb and how they're behaving, like today's June 22nd, 3:12 p.m., Farah is still sending me advertisement for her abnormal looking daughter, even though for the past week she's been doing this, and I've been saying no every day. Like, no, I don't want your daughter. I don't want your weirdo abnormal looking daughter, and she's still doing it. It's almost as if like it's like something by force. Like, I don't want her. Like, I'm good, thank you very much for asking. It's that sort of thing, you know. And so yeah, law enforcement is losing power over these girls right now. There's absolutely no way that law enforcement is going to do a brain savant test, and if anyone in the government asks them, it will prove my point. The fact that the reason they've always done this against me, false testimonies and everything, is only due to extreme envy of my brain savant. And the fact that they cannot do a brain savant test for 30 minutes right now proves the fact that they're extremely scared right now of the fact that they're losing power over these girls. And since they're losing power over these girls, there's no way they're going to do a brain savant test. Since, let's face it, we all know artificial intelligence didn't lie with their 1 minute long brain savant test, okay? Whatever it predicted for 1 minute is what's going to happen at the end of 30 minutes. And that is obviously the reason why law enforcement is so obsessed with me. They want to frame me and then try to murder me. And that's the reason why people like Assad, that wedding incident, he would be president, he would be present in it, he would be involved in it, and you would see him at that wedding ahead and behind every single other person who would be involved and present in that crime scene for that wedding incident. And that person like Assad is absolutely guilty, and I said it from day one, and guess what he's doing? Roaming around with law enforcement all day, night long. They're helping him run sex schemes and this and that, and they don't care. At the end of the day, Assad gets found guilty. He's just like any of the other adults, okay? He just packs up his stuff and leaves. That's it. And a person like me, they're trying to frame over and over again. They can't do a 30-minute brain savant test, even though it disproves their guilt in 30 minutes. Let's say I'm Kim Peek Rain Man, even better than him. it still disproves their guilt, because at the end of the 30 minutes, they've shown that they're not obsessed with not letting my brain savant be seen performing out in the open for 30 minutes, which is something I know for a fact law enforcement will not do, especially not right now when they're getting rejected by the girls, since the entire motive behind them being obsessed over me is due to my brain savant, the monetary potential that artificial intelligence has marked my brain savant as being the most rare and profitable in the world. And that's the reason law enforcement will not do a 30-minute test to help save their life right now. Law enforcement has a habit of running their mouths, and they did this time and again, over and over again. They're all talk. They're all talk. Okay, they're not going to talk themselves. They'll get someone from 50,000 miles away from my overseas pharmacy school who has no clue what they're talking about. They don't know that I was forced to forfeit exams, and they use extreme amnesia drugs on me on like the last biochem exam. They don't know this. They don't care about this. They're extremely envious, and they're going to say bad things about me. And that law enforcement knows that. And law enforcement is going to use them, push them forward to say things about me that they have no clue what they're talking about. But at the end of the day, when this gets proven false, obviously, because law enforcement will tell the courts themselves, yes, we did use extreme amnesia drugs on him in exam rooms. We did lock up his brain savant, never let him know about it, which makes him getting a college degree an absolute miracle, considering the fact that I slept on the side of the streets. And law enforcement's also witness to the fact that I went months with little food, 2 sandwiches and a pack of ramen noodles. I knew my mother, how hard she used to work at a Food Line grocery store to send me money for those 2 sandwiches and a pack of ramen noodles. So right now, law enforcement is not going to do a brain savant test, but they're going to be all talk. They're going to be all talk because they're getting rejected by the girls, and they think I'm to be blamed for it, which literally proves my point that law enforcement and Junaid were working together in court to try to say as many bad things about me while threatening to break my things, since they did break my things. Front under part of my car. They broke my charging adapter for my phone, which is a really nice one. They broke my Fire Stick for my TV. All due to getting rejected by the girls. And right now, law enforcement is going to be all talk. They'll be all talk because they're extremely envious right now, and they're getting rejected by the girls. But guess what? When that challenge comes through and it's time for a showdown, these people are nowhere near the scene. This has happened before time and again. And the last time they were all talk because of these girls, I took them up on their challenge. It was October 2025, and I told them, you know what? I'll meet you at the Kremlin. In Moscow, Russia, I'll go so close to the Kremlin, I'll be able to see it from my hotel window every single day I wake up in the morning, and I took them up on that challenge. 25 days I waited in Moscow, Russia, right near the Kremlin, where the Russian government showed the entire world, China, Russia, India, every single country in the world saw it live. These people in law enforcement cowering behind like a bunch of little girls, unable to do a 30-minute brain savant test after challenging me to it. I waited in Moscow, Russia, right near the Kremlin. I would wake up in my hotel window every single morning. I would send a video to my mother of the Kremlin, the 3 Golden Globes of the Kremlin, right from my hotel window in Moscow, Russia. I waited 25 days there for a 30-minute challenge. Guess what? These people were nowhere near the scene. They were all talk, and they're all talk only when they get rejected by these girls and they lose power over them, clearly showing that everything that they've done is due to their extreme envy against me, and right now due to their sex addiction. They're asking me to help them run after these girls, which I will never do. Scamming someone's daughter when you don't want your daughter to be like that. You know, you don't want your daughter scammed by people in law enforcement telling them that such and such is a CEO, when that in reality the girl finds out 2 days later he's been losing his job every single year, and then he confesses himself to losing his job again because getting fights with people at his workplace. Like, that's not something that's supposed to be law enforcement's job, to be scamming girls into having sex with people. And law enforcement for the past 2 days has been asking me to help them out. They're all talk right now, saying things about my brain savant. But guess what? When I called them up on their challenge, and last time I did in October 2025, I went to Moscow, Russia on November 10th, 2025, waited there for 25 days. Not one squeal from these mice. As soon as they did their brain savant test on the night of November 14th, 2025, less than a mile away from the Kremlin in Moscow, Russia, guess what? You didn't hear one squeal from them because they knew what the truth was. They also knew everyone in the world knew about it. So they're all talk right now. But the fact of the matter is, unless law enforcement does a 30-minute brain savant test, they cannot disprove their guilt. And their guilt is very obvious and apparent. The fact that they cannot do a 30-minute test to help save their life, and the fact that they're running scams on these girls right now that they're getting rejected by, and the fact that they're begging me to help them with running after these girls clearly shows a sex addiction from law enforcement's part. And a very bizarre thing that government taxpayer dollars and resources are being used to scam other people's daughters right now is absolutely bizarre. And the fact that law enforcement's running their mouth about my brain savant, but they cannot do a 30-minute test to help save their life, clearly shows guilt from their part. And they have to do a 30-minute test, since a 30-minute test disproves their guilt for a brain savant. By letting go of my brain for 30 minutes, they cannot say that the world's going to know about human rights crimes if they let go of my brain, because then everyone's going to know it was locked, since they showed it to everyone in Moscow, Russia, when they were challenged to the challenge, and they could only do a 1-minute test before they could do a 30-minute one, and the 1-minute test ended up being their worst nightmare. And after they saw their nightmare, they saw that not only was I a triple savant, but that my powers were increasing over time. They locked everything up, took the artificial intelligence report, hid it, and then ran away, never to even talk about a brain savant ever again. I never heard one squeal from these mice. 25 days I was in Moscow, Russia, looked out the window to the 3 golden globes of the Kremlin, never heard one squeal from these mice. Because they were scared that if they ran their mouths over there, someone else might turn off their thing around my brain, and I would do a 30-minute test over there. And they were scared, so they never ran their mouths over there. But right now, they're running their mouths. And I can guarantee you, if I ended up in Moscow, Russia right now, they'd go quiet. You wouldn't hear one squeal from these mice. They're all talk. But the fact of the matter is, there's only one test that disproves the disproves their guilt, and that's a 30-minute brain savant test, which proves beyond a reasonable doubt that everything law enforcement is doing till now, while running sex schemes and money fraud and having BFFs like Assad who are absolutely guilty, everything that law enforcement is doing right now against me, trying to frame me, is not due to extreme envy of my brain savant, and the fact that they're begging me to help them with their sex schemes does not show sex addiction, and the fact that they can't do a 30-minute brain savant test due to this being the absolute reason why they've done everything against me, like trying to frame me with false testimonies multiple times, including a 10-year-old child testifying mid-January 2026 that I said anti-government things to him when I was a 10-year-old child. Can you believe that? And like right now, they have to do a 30-minute test to prove that everything they've done is not to inhibit my brain savant from being able to be seen performing out in the open for 30 minutes. Thank you. That's all I had to say.